and gentlemen, welcome back to the Aches, Pains, and Gains podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Thomas. Over there, I got my other co-host, Daniel Heinz. Danny, let me ask you a question.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
What is your favorite underwear brand?
Sax.
Really?
Yeah.
Hands down. Have you tried other brands?
Negative.
Right on. Moving on, folks. Danny, how many times do you think you've cut weight in your life?
Oh my God. I would say definitely from wrestling to, well, the two main sports I've ever competed in would be two weight class based sports. And I would say majority of like weight competitions, I've had to do some form of like weight management to get in. So I've done a lot of weight cuts.
Folks, if you haven't guessed it, today we're talking about weight cutting, a powerlifter's guide to doing it, okay? Cutting weight is a nuanced and often misunderstood part of competitive powerlifting. Who should do it? How do you do it safely? And most importantly, how do you maintain performance? And that's what we're going to be going over today. Myself, personally, I've been cutting weight since I was 12 years old.
Healthy.
Maybe not the most healthy. So I'm 27. So 50. I've been doing this for 15 years. I've been competing in weight class
15
sport.
fucking years I've been doing this.
Been on this planet.
Yes.
And so I've done it really poorly. I've also done it really well. And I've also helped coach some people into doing it not as poorly as I did in the past.
Yep.
Now, I started with boxing, and then I was a wrestler, and then I moved on to powerlifting, all weight class sports. The tricky thing with powerlifting, at least for the sake of this episode, is we're going to be talking about the 2-hour weight lift or weigh-in period for the IPF competitions. I know some other, what do you call them? Divisions, leagues, federations.
There you go.
Powerlifting federations.
They do a 24-hour.
They do 24-hour. Some do also do a 2-hour weigh-in.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to be talking about the 2-hour weigh-in and some strategies to optimize doing that.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we dive in, we recorded last week, so it feels weird for us to do another Aches, Pains, and Gains segment. However, I do want to know, Daniel, gym jams. What do you listening to?
What do you think it's going to be?
What are you listening to these days in the gym?
Honest to God, not a lot. I've been in like a weird phase where I just show up to the gym.
It's just quiet.
I don't need music.
Just listen to the voices in my head.
I go there to hang. Well, sometimes, but no, I just go there, hang out with the boys, and I find that if I put music on, it takes away from my time with my friends.
And when you're an adult, folks, it's hard to find social time with your friends. So
honest to God. So honestly,
gym.
but like, I don't know, bro. It's just still the same old shit. Like fucking Zach Top, anything country,
little
bro.
Boot, scoot, and boogie.
Little boot, scoot, and boogie.
Right on.
Oh, baby.
Right on. What have I been listening to, you ask? Thanks, Danny. Great question. Lately, I've actually been on a metal kick.
Whoa.
Heavy rock to metal.
Surprising.
And here's why, okay? I'm trying to hook grip, and it hurts a lot.
Oh, my God. And
so I find if I crank up the metal and I just get like frothingly angry, I can tolerate the pain a lot more
really?
than when I'm just...
So what type of bands?
Honestly, it's kind of been bouncing all over the place, but when I was in high school, I loved Disturbed. So I started back with Disturbed.
That's like the most PG version.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and then I was like, okay, Disturbed. And then Spotify did its thing, a little bit of shuffling, do start a radio station on this song.
Yeah.
And then I remembered Breaking Benjamin. So I went back to Breaking Benjamin and oh, dude, brings me back. Prepping for my high school provincial final in wrestling. I Will Not Bow. That was my song.
I do like Slipknot. They're pretty good
Slipknot
too.
as well. Yeah. Yeah, and then some more like kind of modern metal bands as well. What's the one band? I'm drawing a blank on their name right now. Anyway, we're gonna move on. I can't. Spirit Box. That's the name.
Never heard of them.
Not Matchbox. Spirit Box. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been into lately in the gym.
Nice.
So I've been kind of enjoying.
So you think you have to go to that like dark place to like figure out the hook grip?
Just for right now.
For right now?
Yeah. Honestly though, like. There is something to be said about just putting on some intense music, even for like accessories when you're trying to like, grind out an extra rep and that kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
I find like it actually does increase your tolerance. And there actually has been research on this too, where they showed people like different types of media and like compared their like lifting performance and stuff like that.
Really?
I can't remember the name of the study off the top of my head, but kind of interesting though, nonetheless. All right, let's jump into the episode here, Dan.
Hell yeah.
So we've both been cutting for a while. Now, why do people cut weight? Because obviously, do you compete in the 83? I compete in the 93, usually. Sometimes I'm 105.
Unit.
Unit, depending on how I'm feeling about cutting,
Yeah.
which we'll get into.
Yeah.
Neither of us could just cut down to like 63 and expect to have a reasonable performance, right?
Yeah.
And maintain
Yeah.
our strength. Because if we could, we would, and then we'd go to Worlds, right? Because we'd maintain the total
Of course.
of a 83 or 93 as a 63. But that's not how that works.
No.
And why not, Daniel? Why do people cut?
Well, most people cut because they are trying to get a competitive advantage over the lighter lifters that they are potentially going up against. So yeah, typically you'll see bigger guys trying to cut down to smaller weight classes in hopes to have a competitive edge and maybe have a higher GL points, or maybe they're going for a record. Who knows? But the crux of it is they're trying to get a competitive advantage.
Yep. And I suppose we haven't really defined what weight cutting is so far to the uninitiated, because it's quite possible we have some beginner powerlifters listening to this podcast.
There's like fat loss dieting where you're dieting to lose like body fat and drop weight with losing fat. But then there's weight cutting in the sense of like a competition where you're trying to drop in this case
an acute loss in body weight.
Yeah, over a very short term.
Yeah, usually like 1 to 2 weeks. Tops.
Yeah.
From what I've seen.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we're not, for the sake of this episode, we're not going to cover kind of the more chronic fat loss dieting.
Yeah.
Although that being said, chronic fat loss dieting is probably the least detrimental to your performance in terms of trying to make it down to a different weight class.
Least as in like damn near zero effect, because if you
assuming it's not huge and you have a long enough timeline.
That's right. Yeah. I think I don't know. Do you want to like get into a little bit of like dieting, like structure leading into, like, say you have like a year? Because I've seen multiple people talk about how they'll be in like a calorie deficit for like say 8 weeks, and then they'll do a maintenance phase for 8 weeks, and then they'll do another calorie deficit phase, and then maintenance, and then hopefully you're at where you want to be, close to competition, so then you can be in a slight surplus to fuel and accommodate that,
like
high.
Eat back up into the competition.
That's right.
Kind of thing.
That's right, yeah.
For the sake of this episode...
But that should happen like for over like a year. That's a big process.
Let's just focus on the acute phase of making a weight class or weight cutting.
Yeah, so
like the last 1 to 2 weeks-ish or so.
Rapid weight loss for sure.
Yeah, rapid weight loss.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we'll be focusing on. And Danny, now who should cut weight? Should everyone cut weight?
So do we want to like keep it to powerlifting, or we just like do it in any sport?
Let's keep it to powerlifting.
Okay.
That's what we are.
So who should cut weight?
Yes.
Well, first off, I'll tell you who shouldn't cut weight.
Tell me.
And that is the first time lifter. And I'll be honest, I was guilty of this when I first did my first competition. But I was also, quote, a seasoned wrestler.
Yeah.
At that time, I was already like 3 years into the sport of wrestling, so I knew
what it's like,
quote, how to manage my weight.
Yeah, it's not like it's not as much of a shock once you've experienced things like, being hungry for an extended period of time, or being quite dehydrated over like, a 24-hour period or something along those lines, right?
Yeah. So, okay. So who shouldn't cut weight?
Yeah. Who should not?
Definitely like the first time powerlifters who they're going into their first competition. Their sole goal for their first competition should be just to have a fun time, minimize as much stress as possible leading into it. Just focus on moving big weight, hitting some PRs if they're there, and having a good time.
Yeah, enjoy the experience.
Enjoy your first time, because after that, it sucks. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
The first competition is already stressful enough without having to add on an additional factor.
Yeah, like that. The last thing you want to be worrying about is body weight when you've never lifted in front of a crowd, let alone 3 refs who are going to be scrutinizing your every move.
Yep.
So, yeah, man, like there's absolutely no reason to do a big weight cut.
Yep.
Now, if you're like a pound or two, you could probably skip your last meal the day before, and you'll probably drift the rest, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
But
drift meaning the just weight loss from your body simply existing and surviving, right?
Yeah.
Just your what's it called? Your basal metabolic rate.
Yeah.
Will just kind of burn off that additional bit of
BMR.
weight.
Yeah.
And as well as your what's it called? As well as you just exhaling water.
Yeah.
As well. You'll lose water that way as well.
You breathing is losing weight.
Yep. Yep, indeed.
Yeah.
And burns calories, I guess, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, easy there. That's gonna be the intro, is you just heavy breathing into the
It's good.
to the mic. Okay, now in terms of who
should,
or when is it kind of warranted, I have always told athletes that it's only really worth it if you're going for a record or some sort of podium placing or a qualifying total. Like for me, I was trying to qualify for the 93 nationals, right?
Yeah.
However, I competed as a 105, and the 105 total is 740, and the 93 kilo qualifying total is 710.
Yeah.
Which is a very large difference in total.
Yeah.
Right. So I was like, well, let's go to the 93 because I had the best chance to make it. Right. I didn't because I suck.
Whoa.
Just kidding. I talked about it on one of the episodes.
You also,
we don't have to go in.
When you were up, when you did provincials 105, you were also like a light 105, were you not?
Yeah, I weighed in like 98 kilos.
Yeah,
99.
so like you were damn near like right in the middle, so you could have went either way.
I could have. Unlikely to qualify with 740 though for nationals. Anyway, we talked about that already, but I performed in that circumstance. I did gradual weight loss very aggressively over a short period of time.
Yeah.
And then I finished off with acute weight loss.
So that was from provincials, which was like end of November.
It was 6 or 7 weeks.
Oh, damn, that is short.
Yeah.
So
I was in a pretty steep caloric deficit.
Yeah.
For a while there.
Through the holidays too. What a stud.
Through the holidays and starting a new job. Yeah. It was it was not a great experience, but we made it through. I was like rewarded with the fact that I succeeded in one of the goals and making a weight.
Yeah, making weight. Yeah, you know now that you can do it, right?
Yeah, and I've refined the process, and I actually think I probably would have qualified had I had like 12 weeks to cut or something.
Fuck
yeah,
absolutely.
So,
yeah.
Anyway,
for sure.
Moving on. Would you add anything to who should or should not cut weight?
So yeah, you should you said if you're cutting down to podium, records, qualifying totals. No, I don't think I would add anything else. That's pretty much it, man.
Yeah. And like there is like you definitely do not have to cut weight, right? At any point in time. It's always like a choice. I feel like there's been a bit of a cultural bleed over into powerlifting from sports like wrestling, where there's this culture of everyone weight cuts because it makes you mentally tough or something like that, right? We both experienced it, and no matter what, it seemed like everyone was just cutting weight. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
No matter what, and it doesn't always provide you with a tactical or competitive like advantage. You know what I mean? So it's not always worthwhile, and it is fairly psychologically distressing. You know what I mean? Like,
oh god,
over the course of like my 6 or 7 weeks there, like the food focus I had, the stress I was having like weird dreams, like induced by stress regarding food and things like that. Right. So yeah, it's not the healthiest practice too. And there are risks involved as well. If you're, an idiot and don't know what you're doing.
Oh, you could definitely develop, some type of like eating disorder
or disordered eating pattern.
Yeah. If you do it for too long, or you're way too hyperfixated, and or if you're doing it the wrong way, like there's
that brings up actually another good point for who should not cut weight, because if you have a history
good call
of disordered eating or an eating disorder, if you're going to endeavor in a weight class sport where there's some focus on the weight, you know what I mean, like the scale weight, and then there's issues or triggers surrounding that, highly recommend either touching base with your psychologist or therapist. And or a registered dietitian, right? So the registered dietitian, they can help you, do this thing, perform to your best, and ideally have a healthier relationship with food without destroying that for you.
Yeah,
you know, 'cause
absolutely.
it's a slippery slope, right? Especially when yeah, you step on the scale every morning when you're trying to cut weight, and you get a little kick of dopamine when the scale dips down.
Yep.
And then when it doesn't dip down, you get a little stressed out about it. Like that's long term. It's not great for you, and that's why I go through like long breaks without tracking food
Absolutely.
and even stepping on the scale. Like I'll be weighing myself every day to like every other week or something like that. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Post nationals, I didn't step on the scale or track a single food item for 4 weeks.
Yep.
I just started this last week here.
Kind of just chill out, right?
Yeah, man.
Psychologically
it's good. Psychological break.
Reset the body. That's what
Classic.
I say. Okay, so let's get into the ways of actually performing like some rapid weight loss or acute weight loss. Okay. Now, we both like to stratify these into kind of like a low risk, minimal impact on performance to a higher risk or extreme risk with a higher impact on performance, right? So let's structure this kind of low to high. On one of the Iron Culture episodes, they structured it. One of the researchers, he kind of talked about like a ladder approach. And I like thinking of it that way as well, right? Because obviously you almost want to start at the top of the ladder where there's the least chance of having an impact on your performance, right? So which method do you want to start with here, Dan? Any ideas?
Let me look through this.
The first one we have listed is the low residue diet. So that's
oh, I see. Yeah. So the low residue
Tell
diet.
Dan is very prepared.
No, I'm just lost in the fucking scrolling here. The low residue diet is essentially a form of like the other term is a gut cut.
Yeah.
Right. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Ultra low fiber, low volume food intake, but high calories. So you're still meeting like say your maintenance calories for the day.
Or still running a deficit too.
Or still running a deficit depending where you're at.
Yeah.
But keeping protein high, high fat, low carb, and low fiber. And what that does is over the course of like say a couple days at the start, the actual content in your gut, your stomach is low. So there's actually like less food inside of you.
Yep.
That causes weight. So, essentially that is, but you're still meeting calories.
Yeah.
So you're still getting the same nutrition in the sense.
Yep.
But there's just less actual food density inside of you.
And you don't necessarily have to drop carbs that week either. I prefer maintaining because you're still, training and stuff like that. And I also don't powerlift full time. Like I have a job. And when I'm lacking carbs, like as a physio,
you don't eat, sleep, and breathe powerlifting, bro?
Yeah, I don't. I can't. But yeah, if I'm like lacking carbs and I'm trying to get through the day, it's just really difficult too.
Yeah.
Plus, then you got to worry about carving back up, or restoring your glycogen stores.
Yes.
Post weigh-in, which is an additional thing to consider, which can make or have a larger impact on your training, or on the competition, depending on how long you've depleted your carb stores, right? Now the low residue diet or the fiber cut, the gut cut, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Oftentimes I'll recommend 2 to 3 days minimum.
Yeah.
I'll often just do the whole week. Just to
what
really,
a dog.
just to empty it all out.
That's insane. Yeah.
But I'll lower the fiber at the start of the week,
Yeah.
but then really cinch down on the fiber and sodium closer to the competition day.
Yeah.
Just so I'm not retaining as much.
So what I'll do usually is I'll start like say 7 days out. I'll keep my diet normal, my macros what they normally are. So like a higher carb, not minimal fat, but like moderate fat. And as each day progresses, I'll slowly increase my fat and drop my carbs by a certain percentage while maintaining that same calorie intake, and protein stays the same. And then as each day passes, there's more fat, less carbs, more fat, less carbs. And by the last like 2 or 3 days, it's like super low carb, high fat, but we're still meeting that same calorie mark. So that way it's not, I don't know, much of a shock. And I find that really the only thing that's that you have to deal with is like there's a slight hunger increase those last couple of days because it feels like you're not eating as much, but you still are. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, the biggest thing is hunger.
Yeah, and like with all of these strategies, there is a psychological and physiological cost, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because being hungry is just, and then trying to train and compete and travel, it's not a very pleasant experience by any means.
Yeah.
Also, keeping in mind, you removing fiber from your diet, and then also water loading, which is something we'll get into as well. Your let's say your bowel movements get a little bit interesting for sure. Lack of fiber, a lot of water. I usually eat really high fat foods as well. But I try and keep it as healthy as possible. But I'll often go for something like chocolate or like nuts and things like that.
Yeah.
And your guts are kind of like, bro, what the hell's happening right now? Like, what are we doing right now? So it's a bit of shock to the system for sure. Highly recommend getting a bidet for that week. It'll help you immensely.
Dude, always plugging his bidet, dude.
I think that's the first time I've talked about it on the podcast.
No, didn't you talk about it with
Donovan?
Donovan?
No, he talked about it before we started recording.
Oh, yeah.
Donovan sold me on buying a bidet.
That's right. Okay, I do remember.
It'll change your life.
Yeah.
Plus, you save money on toilet paper. Anyway, I'm not going to get into it right now.
That's crazy.
So with a gut cut, I think you can often expect like a 1% to 2% drop just from that alone.
Yeah.
So when you're planning out how much you need to lose, you can account for roughly 1% to 2%. However, this doesn't work if you don't eat fiber in your day-to-day diet because you have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
So if you're not eating a lot of fiber, what's wrong with you? You should be doing that.
So hold on here. What's a typical fiber, daily fiber intake?
It'll vary a fair amount, depending on what I've meal prepped that week.
Give me an example.
I
need a range because I have.
Let me pull up Macro Factor.
Well, hold up. Matt. Yeah. Going into nationals, he was using our weight cutting template, and he was tracking his fiber, and I was looking at the fiber count.
It's just nothing.
No, it was like 50 to 60 grams a day. Is that a lot?
Well,
because like for me, it's typically like
that's fairly high.
20 to 25 usually, maybe. And I was like, holy fuck, that is insane. Granted, he's a big guy, but I thought that was a big number.
The Heart and Stroke Foundation recommends, the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Canada recommends 25 to 38 grams per day of fiber.
This dude was fucking double that, I swear to God.
But he's a big guy, so
I guess.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was
so
insane.
He's having 60 something?
50 to 60 is what I saw in the chart.
Like I've been up that high, but like it's more, I don't know. Sometimes I've got a big hankering for like fruits and veggies. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or something like that too.
So when you're doing a gut cut, I would say like aim to be less than 10 grams of fiber.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
That is definitely the goal. Like you don't want to go zero. Like you can have some, but I mean, less than 10 for sure. Yeah.
And honestly, it's not a bad idea, folks, if you're planning on cutting in the near future, and I'm talking within like, 6 months kind of thing, do a trial cut.
Absolutely.
Do a week.
Good call.
Where you perform all of, weigh yourself, almost religiously. I always do like a before bed weigh-in and a morning weigh-in. Yes. So you can calculate the loss, the drift overnight.
Per hour.
Yeah, maybe per hour.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can break it down per hour. I'll just go per night so I know what I need to go to bed roughly at, depending on what time of day the weigh-in is, right? Obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, it's not a bad idea just to give it a trial run for a week. And just see how you respond, get a feeling for what it's like before doing it before a big competition that you likely have something riding on the line for because you're choosing to make a cut.
Yeah.
So it's not a bad idea to prepare for it, test it, see how it goes, be like, oh, the fiber cut, like I only lost like 0.5%, I think, from that or whatever. And then you can make some adjustments based on some of the other, things you can, or levers you can pull. Right?
Yeah, man. That's good.
Yeah. Anything else on the low residue kit?
No.
The other thing you can throw in there as well is fasting or meal skipping, depending on where you're at by the end of the week. Personally, I'll go for roughly like a 16-hour like food fast. Any more than that, you get pretty cranky.
16 hours out pre-weigh-ins.
Yes, before the weigh-in begins. So, if I'm weighing in at like, say, I'm not going to do this math on I can't do it. My brain just shut off trying to think about the hour conversion. I know it's 12 plus 4, but whatever. I don't need to.
What?
Like
I
I was like, okay, what time of day would I stop if it was at 9 a.m.? And I was like, I'm not gonna go down this route. Just do the math, folks. Fucking 16 hours before.
Okay, say you weigh in at 8 a.m.
8 a.m.
Yes. So that means your last meal, if you're doing a 16-hour,
It'll be 4 p.m.
Yeah.
Let's go.
That's
math for the win.
I don't know if that's right, to be honest.
Yeah, someone's gonna fact check.
You got ahead of me, but
maybe.
So then your last meal, last water intake would be 4 p.m.
Yes. Now, the other, so like in terms of like fasting, you don't always necessarily have to do that one.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to do any of these actually, but I'll often use a combination of the lower risk ones to try and just make the weight class. So if you're really close to the weight that you need to make it to, oftentimes like a low residue diet and a fasting or meal skipping period can absolutely get you to the weight class that you want to.
Yeah.
Right? Because you want to minimize the impact that this has on your weight cut, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or on your performance from the weight cut.
Yeah.
So if you can do the least amount possible, that's better, right?
Yes.
Or that's optimal, if you will.
Yeah, these two methods, the gut cut and the fasting, are going to be the lowest impact on performance by far. The only caveat is hunger. You will be hungry if you haven't done it before. So yeah, just if you're going to do these, bear in mind, hunger is going to be there, but just tough it out.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you have to embrace the suck for a little bit.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, the more moderate impact strategies that we have here, the good old-fashioned water loading and restriction, okay? Now, for me, roughly 2 to 3% from this method.
Mm-hmm.
So for this past weight cut, I did a, gradual loss up until, a week out. I set my you kind of work backwards, right? So I set my target to where I knew I'd be roughly within 5%, which 5% is kind of close to the max that you may want to do, plus or minus a little bit, depending on how big you are.
Yeah.
Typically, if you're a bigger athlete, you have more to lose. And if you're like a really tiny athlete, you probably won't get as much, or you won't be able to cut as much or such a high percentage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, 2 to 3% from water loading and water restriction as well. Now, relatively safe all in all, assuming that you're a healthy individual, but there's definitely some risks with this involved, and it's quite uncomfortable as well if you're not used to doing this. And if you've never done it before, also not a bad idea to test out if you've never done it. Now, what water loading usually entails, well, I guess, how far out do you start your water load usually?
Again, that 7-day mark.
Yeah.
I kind of start everything on that 7 days.
Yeah.
And I know you do it a little bit differently, but I
do 5
I
usually.
do up to double my normal water intake.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'll do like 2 or 3 days of like working up to that and then maintaining that double water intake for 3 days.
Right. Yeah.
And then the last day is like 1 to 2 liters of water, depending where we're at, and then weigh in the next day.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. And then usually the number I've seen thrown around in the very limited research on this so far is roughly drinking 100 milliliters per kilogram of body weight for about 3 to 4 days. I've gone up to 5 sometimes just because I get anxious and stressed about this stuff, and I just would rather give myself more time than less. But yeah, so essentially what you're doing is just hyperhydrating. Now, 100 milliliters per kilogram is a lot of water. You know what I mean? So my goal weight and the weight I was close to was about like 95 or so kilos, right?
Yeah.
So I was drinking, 9,500 milliliters of water per day, aka 9.5 liters, right? And if you're American, that's too bad. I'm not going to convert it to freedom units.
That's almost like two and a bit gallons or something.
No, it's 2 and a bit gallons.
4 gallons.
I think it's 2.6 gallons.
A gallon is 4 liters.
I went and converted it anyway. So, America,
what the fucking eagle.
Yeah. So basically, during this phase, you are just hyperhydrating to make it more likely that your body will willingly shed water once you decide to cut it off, right? Thoughts on that?
No.
That sums it up pretty good, hey?
That's pretty good.
Would you add anything to that?
None.
And then usually I will stop drinking water 16 hours out.
Yes.
And then 24 hours out, I'll usually drink about a liter to a liter and a half, depending on where we are.
Yeah.
But still ending at 16 hours out. So I'll have about 8 hours to drink roughly a liter of water. Just for comfort. Like literally just for comfort.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Just because
keep the mouth fucking wet.
Yeah, so your lips don't dry out and all that.
And like you may be wondering, like, fuck, 9 liters of water is a ton to drink. It is. It is a uphill battle for most of the day after like the 3rd liter.
Yep.
And the one thing that changed
the game
for me was one, using a little bit warmer water so it's not ice cold.
Yeah, so you're not just freezing.
And Mio.
Yep.
Mio to add in flavor for the water.
Yep. Yeah, any
honest to God helps it go down like that. It's
any
so good.
0 or low cal water flavoring product.
Yeah.
Just make sure that it's not one of the ones that with a bunch of sodium and potassium.
Yeah, like
because we're not trying to load up on electrolytes now.
That's right. Yeah.
Because otherwise that's gonna increase your water retention.
Yeah.
So like throughout this week too, I usually do throughout this phase in the acute weight cut, I usually restrict my sodium intake as well, which can is risky because it can put you in hyponatremia, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna talk about hyper.
Ooh, good segue later. I like it.
But it is a bit risky. You don't want to completely eliminate salt and things like that.
Yeah.
But I do just try and reduce it. So like when I'm cooking, I just won't cook with salt and things like that. There's natural sodium in a bunch of different products or food products that I eat throughout the week. Anyway, especially if you're eating stuff like nuts, I'll get them unsalted, but there's still sodium. So usually I'm not going to 0 because that would just be stupid to drink that much water and then just totally stop all salt intake, But it does help with the offloading or shedding of water once you begin the restriction phase of the water loading method. Another tip as well, if you spend a lot of time in traffic, that's not really a problem for us here in Saskatoon, but if you, like over an hour and you're not near a bathroom and things like that, maybe keep a bottle on hand in your car in case it comes to that, because you won't be able to, make it to a washroom, but you're not used to drinking that much water.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I got this tip from, I think that same Iron Culture episode. Someone suggested that because like, just think if your commute's like 2 hours and you're stuck in traffic or something, well, 2 options. There's, pee in the bottle or you pee on the side of the road.
Hell yeah.
If, traffic's moving, you're going to be that guy or that girl.
I got to piss.
I guess.
I'm not pissing in a bottle.
I guess you could just
that bottle fills up really fucking quick, dude.
Always do just one hand on the steering wheel, I guess, if you're but yeah, I wouldn't recommend
squeezing the bottle between your legs and you're trying to fucking okay, what if you're a girl?
Yeah, then you just figure it out. You're hooped.
Yeah, you're done.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point too.
Oh, you know what we didn't talk about?
What?
Spitting.
Yeah, as a way of
that'd be a low
impact method of
my
losing
bad.
weight.
I just thought of that.
Yeah, it's crazy. You just jumped into spitting. But please define what you mean by spitting.
So spitting, like your mouth produces saliva and that is
really
quote
water.
Water, right?
Yeah.
So if you can somehow what's the word I'm looking for? Like activate that saliva by like sucking on sour candies.
Jolly Ranchers.
Jolly Ranchers are a really good one. And you can just spit into a cup. That, like if you're really close to body weight, to your weight class, like I'm talking 50 grams or something like that.
Yeah, it's like
you stepped on the scale thinking you were good and you're like, oh shit, I'm 0.04 heavy.
Yeah, a titch over.
That is something you can do to kind of just in an emergency make weight like that. I don't know.
It's pretty low risk, uncomfortable for sure.
Yeah,
not pleasant because you have this like.
I would say definitely use like Jolly Ranchers because I've used the like a sour candies before.
It hurts your mouth.
My fucking mouth was fucked after that day.
That's a good way to get like what's it called, like a mouth, like a canker sore. Yeah, if you don't have any,
I swear my
moisture in your mouth,
it was so
just
bad.
Put sour candies in.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like something like a Jolly Rancher, like a hard candy, suck on it, don't swallow the saliva, just spit the saliva out.
Yeah.
That's another way you can definitely shed just a little bit of weight as well.
And if you're wheezy, use like an enclosed dark like a bottle or something.
Yeah, you mean like queasy?
Yeah.
Wheezy?
What did I say? Wheezy?
Wheezy?
Whatever. Fucking.
Making fun of the asthmatics out here. But yeah, so
Because it gets gross.
it does get
it looks gross.
You got this multicolored spit
Yeah.
going on. It's kind of nasty.
Yeah.
Um,
Sorry, I knew I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah.
I
So
just saw it.
oftentimes my weight loss, quote unquote, method will be a combination of the gut cut, maybe meal skipping, and then usually a water load
Yeah.
as well. Oftentimes I will just water load anyway if I know I'm making a cut. Even if I don't wind up needing it at the end, I would prefer to come out ahead and be water loaded
Yeah.
and then decide that I don't need to restrict. There's also just the psychological part of me that even when I'm not cutting, I have trouble drinking water just because I've been doing it for so long. And
Yeah.
then when I get closer to competition, it feels like this is just what happens, you know?
Yeah. No, that's true.
But yeah, anything to add on the water loading, sodium manipulation and all that stuff?
Did you talk about sodium loading or
I don't usually sodium load.
me neither?
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
some people talk about that.
Like you can like as you're water loading, you can I don't fully understand it. I'm just gonna like wing this part.
Yep.
As you're water loading, you increase your sodium intake so that you hold on to more water and get a bigger rebound. Is that that what I'm thinking?
I've heard of it. I've never done that before. One particular reason is sometimes you'll see just water loading in general. You'll see your weight actually bump up.
Yes.
And that can be stressful
Yes.
AF,
Yeah.
as the kids say. And like sodium loading will worsen that curve as well.
Yeah.
I also maybe just don't understand it enough. I also think that all of the food most of us in the Western Hemisphere consume regularly
Is high in sodium.
is just
Yeah.
chock full of salt. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? Like you most of us are not sodium deficient.
No.
If you came into this sodium deficient, maybe that'd be a different discussion. That this might be somewhere where I might get someone like a registered dietitian involved
Yeah.
if we start manipulating like the micros a lot, like
Yeah.
the micronutrients
Yeah.
down like
absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
Just because I'm not as comfortable talking about that, you know.
Yeah. I've never done it also. So
Refer out, folks. When
yeah.
in doubt,
When in doubt, refer out.
refer out.
Love it.
Right. And there are registered dietitians out there that do specialize in, performance and weight loss sports too. So
Yeah.
seek out one of those.
Maybe that's the next guest. Hint, hint.
Yeah, that'd be a good one. Yeah, I'll work on that.
I don't know who though.
Shay from Mackie Physio.
Did she do that?
No, she saw a dietitian that helped her with her last weight cut for weightlifting.
From where?
So from Vitality Nutrition. Yeah, so maybe I'll
Never heard
check
of
them out. That's who our clinic refers out to. For
nutrition.
nutrition
Nice.
and stuff like that. Because it does come up, if someone comes in with osteoarthritis and
You don't think a powerlifting coach who has no certifications or anything
or
like that
background or knowledge, they just
should do that?
they just watched a couple of YouTube videos. Yeah, probably not. Yeah, honestly, folks, if you're a coach and you're not comfortable with this stuff, you do not have to be everything. You don't have to wear every
No.
hat, right?
No.
And you can upgrade your skills, over time and become more comfortable with it. Gain experience, experiment on yourself. For the love of God, experiment on yourself to just help figure some of this stuff
Yeah.
out. Attend seminars, YouTube, podcasts, all that stuff. It's great. However, if you're just not comfortable with it and you have doubts, just refer out. Like, don't fuck somebody up because you thought you could just do what your wrestling coach from high school did to you, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, coach got to make weight. Well, go grab the garbage bags.
Go grab the
Start
sauna
running.
suit.
Oh,
Get running.
Fuck.
We'll skip ahead here just really quick on that note. But on the bottom of this tier, one of the most risky things you can do that could impact your performance is some sort of active sweating weight loss method.
Yes.
I'm talking sauna suit and jogging.
Yeah.
Sauna suit and biking.
Yeah.
Sauna suit on a bike in a sauna.
Yes.
I've heard of that too, right?
That's
And now in powerlifting, it's different when you watch the UFC fighters do it. First of all, they have a personal chef
yes.
or nutritionist.
Yeah. The biggest difference between powerlifting and these other
Combat
sports, wrestling, UFC, the main difference
I
is,
think wrestling's different now. Actually, I think they did move to a 2-hour weigh-in.
do they?
Yeah, I think in college at least they did.
Oh shit. Okay, well then that does make a difference
Which
for
is
sure.
smart because
Yes.
people were hurting themselves.
Yeah, is the 24-hour weigh-ins. Now, if you had 24 hours to, and honest to God, it's probably more than that because you're not starting exactly the same time as
the rest of the fighters.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if you're the main event in the UFC,
It's
you
like-
have
it's
so many more hours.
It's 24 hours from the start of the like the bout.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like if the event starts at 5 o'clock, but like you said, you're the main event. Fuck, man, the main event's not usually till like 11 p.m.
Yeah.
So it's typically more than 24 hours.
Yeah. So you have a lot of time. So your fuck around to find out ratio is a lot more forgiving.
Yeah.
Whereas in powerlifting, you have only 2 hours and often less than 2 hours.
Yep.
You only have 2 hours if you are the first person to be called to weigh in because
Yes.
it goes in an order, right?
Yeah.
And depending on the meat and whatnot, but usually you're not. I mean, sometimes you're first, but oftentimes you just expect that you're not going to be first.
Yeah.
And you're going to have less than 2 hours
Yep.
before you need to start warming up,
Yes.
and you'll be stepping on the platform like within 2.5 hours, I'd say. You know what I mean? From the start
Absolutely.
of the weigh-in,
Yep.
right? So like you're gonna, and then shortly after that, 2.5 hours later, you may have just hit your 1RM on squat. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
you can't mess around a lot with those types of things. So I would say for the most part, unless you're in dire emergencies, don't even consider putting on a sauna suit and going for a jog.
Yeah.
Also, the soreness that you experience from that.
Yeah.
I'm speaking from experience here. I have done that multiple times, right? I've wrestled in sauna suits.
Yeah.
My whole body was cramping.
Yeah.
Like it's just a miserable experience.
I can tell you one of my the first instance that comes to mind for me was during wrestling. And I remember it was like February. It was fucking so cold outside. And again, like this was me at home. And I was like, I gotta fucking make weight. And so I remember putting on so many layers, putting on my headphones.
Yeah, you put on like your long johns.
Yeah.
And then your sweater, 2 sweaters maybe.
I had layers up. And
Yeah.
I remember running through the Hampton Village. I had a little route that I ran. And I remember running this route just dripping sweat. But it was so cold.
Yep.
And I remember in my headphones, I had, what the fuck was it?
Lose Yourself by Eminem.
Yeah, it was You Lose Yourself. Yeah.
Classic.
And I remember just thinking like, I'm just trying to sweat. And I think that's so prevalent in the combat sports because going back to what you said, there's a sense of like mental toughness to it. Like you're doing this because you're trying to make weight, but this is also like character building and mental resiliency.
Yeah. And you can build mental resiliency in a lot of other ways.
Oh, yeah.
Besides like something that can be quite dangerous for you.
Yeah,
You know what I
man.
mean?
Yeah, and I remember even like weighing in wrestling tournaments, you'd be in line, and off on the one side of the gym there'd be fucking people doing laps.
Yep.
Because they're trying to make weight. And
Yeah.
I just remember I would see some of my competitors, and I just think, fuck, what a pussy.
Yeah, it'd be like, oh, they suck.
Yeah, I was like, good. I hope you don't make weight.
You're like, I did this early.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly,
Yeah. The first time I cut weight, my dad being like a former wrestler too, it wasn't like a big deal. He just got me to shed some water just through sweating. So I went for a run in shorts and a sweater, and it was like a fairly warm day. It was like early September. So like it wasn't like cooking, but I just went for a jog and then skipped rope for a little bit. And then I just, dropped like, I don't know, it was very minimal. It was like a pound or 2 of water weight. And then I just had to ride it out until the weigh-in for boxing.
Yeah.
So it wasn't anything crazy, but yeah, I've done some pretty extreme ones. When I was in wrestling for the college team here in Saskatchewan, or Saskatoon, I guess, for the Huskies, I cut 8 kilograms in 4 days once, which is a lot. Yeah, that's like 16 point or 17.
I think it's like 17 pounds.
17, yeah, 17.6 pounds.
Jesus.
A bit too much. Wouldn't recommend that. And
Yeah.
that was the last wrestling match of my career too.
Wow.
Yeah. Or last wrestling tournament. I got concussed that tournament. and then gave it up after that one. I wonder if the weight cut had anything to do with it. You know, I ask myself that every now and then. Maybe I wouldn't got thrown onto my head if I was performing better.
I don't know. Who knows?
Hard to say.
Honest to God, that's probably true.
It might help. Yeah. Also, I just think my brain didn't have any like.
Was it 24-hour weigh-ins there still when you were wrestling at the U of S?
Okay, they did it weird. You used to weigh in on Thursday. You had to make weight by Thursday, and then you would travel on Friday. Oftentimes there'd be like exhibition matches or a duel on the Friday, and then the actual tournament would be on Saturday. So moving on here. Anyway, did you want to add anything else on your anecdotes? Folks,
No,
by the
that's
way,
it.
8 kilos in 4 days. If anyone suggests that shit, slap them in the face, stomp on their foot, maybe knee them in the face as well,
Well,
and then walk away.
okay.
Because absurd. No one gave me the advice to do that as well. However, I was a dumb 18-year-old kid who thought I had to make weight. And so I just, by all means necessary, went for like 3 runs, 4 wrestling practices.
Did you ever do water loading there?
Here's the thing.
Because when I wrestled, I did not know anything about the other strategies other than active sweating.
Yeah, I tried to water load. However, the university schedule for being in classes was not conducive to water loading. It was very, very difficult to get it done.
Yeah.
And I tried, however, like still was not enough. For that one, I did 2 sauna sessions too, like on 2 different days.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was miserable. And then I wrestled in a sauna suit after that, which was, the risk of injury was just astronomically high from doing something like that.
God.
You know what I mean? And by the way, this is like a nothing meet that I did this for. Like this was not for the Canadian Western Championships. This wasn't for nationals. This, literally just one of the meets we go to. I just died. It was also post-Christmas as well. And my body weight ballooned back up.
Yeah.
After not being calorically restricted for like 4 months straight. And I probably should have just stayed at that weight class. So live and learn, folks. Learn from my mistakes. Don't do what I did. Be smart. Be reasonable about this. Roughly 5% top end. You don't want to do really any more than that.
Yeah.
That's just it's not good for you. And the higher you go on that percentage, the more likely, or the greater impact that there's going to be on performance too.
Oh yeah.
Part of me also believes that no matter how well you do it, there's always going to be some impact on performance, right? It might not be as obvious, but it's really hard to know for sure because there's just so many things that have to come together perfectly on meet day for it to go well, right? But I always operate under the belief that there's going to be some impact on your strength. So going back to that person that doesn't need to weight cut, if it's your first meet or your second or third meet and you're not competing for anything in particular, and all you really care about is hitting PRs and having a good time, well, why would you compromise hitting PRs over, losing a few kilos or whatever in a fairly miserable fashion?
I'll tell you firsthand, my best meet to date, the one where I took the squat national record. Yeah. I didn't do any form of weight cutting.
Yeah, imagine that.
I know.
Correlation, causation, hard to say.
I don't know.
Yeah. Good to know as well.
Yeah.
There you go, folks. Well, let's wrap it up. No, I'm just kidding. We actually have.
I was like, "Ain't no way, bro. We got a lot more to talk about."
We got the next level. We already touched on a little bit, but high impact, high risk strategies.
Yeah.
These are for the more extreme situations, and I have on here carbohydrate restriction because if you do enough carbohydrate restriction, there's just going to be more of an impact on your training because your muscles won't have as much glycogen in them, and then you have to worry about replenishing glycogen after the weigh-in, and it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
So I tried personally not to deplete myself all that much. However, the thing is, if you're restricting glycogen over the last week or just, carbs in general, I don't actually know for sure how much loss you'd have.
Yeah.
So that's where testing it in a practice go might be a good idea, or testing it on a more of a nothing meet and then having a more important meet a few months down the line.
Yeah.
Could be a good option as well to see what it does to you and your performance.
So you're saying like a long-term low-carb diet? Like almost like
we're just talking about the acute weight loss phase, right? In this episode, right? Just bringing it back to that.
Why did you say it like that?
What do you mean? Well, I'm just reminding you, Daniel.
All right, I'm going to move on.
But yeah, so carbohydrate restriction over the last week, I don't know how much of an impact it actually has on your performance. Yeah. What are you laughing about?
That's good.
Did you
Moving on.
forget that we were...
No.
All right. What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, like, I had in my head, like, say, like, you were doing, like, a low carb... What's the fucking diet? Keto.
Ketogenic diet?
Yeah, say you were doing, like, a keto diet, and it's low carb, high fat. Do you think that you're specifically strength training, like powerlifting, obviously the big three movements, not low volume, but like you're never really oh god, you're gonna have to help me here. What are the
I don't know where you're going with
the systems there's the fuck
you're talking about the different energy systems?
The different energy systems. Do you think that because you have low carbs in your system that the training, like the strength training, never needs the carbs?
Yeah, so that's
I'm asking. That's the worst way to ask.
That is a discussion, I think, for a different podcast episode, the ketogenic diet and powerlifting, because I frankly don't know enough about it. But I do know that the ketogenic diet does some weird shit to your body, and I'm not going to get into it right now because I think some powerlifters actually do use that.
Okay, I really fucking derailed this convo.
Yeah, you did.
Well,
yeah.
I had it in my head, and I didn't even ask it the way I had it in my head.
Yeah, it's okay. You know, a couple of boys with ADHD just trying to make a podcast. It's what a ride. Okay.
All right. Next up.
Do you have anything to add on the carbohydrate shit?
No.
All right.
Carb up.
Passive dehydration. Daniel.
Yes, so this one I know a lot of.
You're intimately familiar with this one. I did. At Nationals, we went to the spa to passively dehydrate.
Yeah.
The Moose Jaw Spa
the world renowned.
What's it called again? Something Gardens or whatever? No. I can't
fucking Moose Jaw Gardens. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's not it.
It's got some like spa-like name.
Botanical Gardens?
Oh, no.
That's not it.
Something close to that, though. Anyway, we went into this hot water and stayed in the water. We would have used a sauna if it was there. It was closed. But passive dehydration is where you're not active and you're doing something to sweat a bit more for water loss. Now, this usually works best when you've water loaded and you've reduced sodium. Would you agree, Danny?
Yes.
Right on.
It's called the Temple Gardens. That's what I was looking up.
Temple
Gardens.
But yeah, so this version of this riskier version of or strategy of weight cutting, I would say probably like no more than 1% to 3% on something like this. You'd want to rely upon. Again, folks, we're kind of in that higher risk category of weight loss, and it's likely going to have a bit more of an impact.
Yeah.
When we're down here, on the ladder, if you will.
Yeah.
So I do try and avoid passive dehydration at all costs because I don't think the juice is always worth the squeeze.
That's right.
Different people have different responses to it. It creates just a lot more unpredictability. It's also just fucking miserable.
Well, there's two ways you could do it. Like when I was in South Africa, I had to do passive dehydration in the tub, and I made the water fucking hot.
Yeah.
Like just to the point of bearable. And I sat in there. I did 2 20-minute bouts in an hour. I did 20 minutes in, 20 minutes out, 20 in, 20 minutes in. And I went and checked my weight, and I dropped like, I don't know, it was like 2 kilos or something.
Yeah.
2 kilos and a bit. And that, like, it was hard. Like I had to sit there, focus. I had music playing. I was just like, but I was by myself.
You're fighting for it.
I was fighting for it.
Yeah.
When we went to the gardens, that is, I think it's not hot.
Yeah.
Like when we were in that pool, it was nice. It was warm.
Yeah. It's like a hot spring.
It was relaxing is what I found, honestly. And
the thing is with the gardens though,
it's
mineral water.
Yes, it had.
Right? So
it's sucking it out of you.
Yeah.
I swear to God. Well.
Yep. We're not going to get into fluid dynamics on this podcast, folks. But basically, the water in your body is just more. You're more likely to sweat it out. For example, if you use something like what are the salts people put in the bath? not bath
Epsom
salts.
salts.
Epsom salts.
Yeah.
You can increase your like rate of water loss using creating some sort of solution that is saltier on the outside, and then the water is more likely to leach out of the bottom.
Do you remember what there's a process of that? What's that called?
Osmosis.
Is that what it is?
That's what cells use.
No, that's not.
I'm drawing a blank on what it's called.
Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like it's water follows sodium.
Yeah, so water, the fluid will move from like an area of low concentration to an area of high concentration.
Sodium uptake? I don't know. Whatever the fuck. Who cares? I'm not a nerd.
Yeah.
But anyway,
it's a hypertonic solution, I think is the term. Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Not moving on. The garden's water was just warm enough to cause sweating, but you're able to sit in there for a longer period of time. And like I said, I found it was quite enjoyable because it was you, me, who else is there? And Kelsey was there.
Yeah.
Oh, and then the other coaches from the other provinces were there.
Yeah.
We were all chatting it up, just having a good time. And I remember stepping back on the scale when we were done. We were in there for like, what, 2.5 hours or so?
Yeah.
2.5 hours straight. And
apparently it is called osmosis.
That's not it.
Yeah.
No,
it specifically refers to the movement of water across a semi-permeable membrane from an area of low solute concentration, low sodium, to an area of high solute concentration.
I don't remember them talking about that in Osmosis Jones. I'll be honest with you.
Well, that's a different discussion. You can tell Danny went to university, folks. No, I'm just, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'm not a licensed paramedic at all.
Uncultured swine.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I found that longer bout of like 2 hours.
It's not as bad when you have.
It was nowhere near as bad, and I dropped about the same.
It was like in Costa Rica.
Oof.
Danny was in the bathtub on his own, and I was talking to a very excellent powerlifter named Rashina, who was also down there competing, and she's from Saskatchewan. And then I heard Danny calling from the washroom. Thomas, come here. And so I popped in. I was like, "Yeah,
come here."
He's like, "Could you sit with me?" I was like,
"I wanted you to sit with me. I needed help."
Yeah, so I gave you the psychological support.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so it is better when you have someone with you. And if you're gonna do these methods, it's probably not a bad idea to have someone nearby.
Yes,
because like you stand up after the bath. You could easily get lightheaded, right? That sudden change in blood pressure.
Yeah.
If you're spending extended time in the sauna and you're already dehydrated and lacking sodium, probably not a bad idea to have a chaperone with you.
Absolutely.
Bring someone in there who just is ready to sweat it out with you.
Yeah.
Just for safety. It's not a bad idea.
Absolutely.
Anything to add on the passive dehydration impact method?
No, it was pretty good.
Yeah. That's the kind of thing that you would do like the night before, or depending on when your weigh-in is, the day of as well.
Yeah.
It's not a bad idea though, even if you have a later weigh-in, to do it the night before if you need to, and then wake up and realize you're a bit under, and then be able to rehydrate throughout the day as well.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of nice when when you wake up kind of under. And
you can eat your way into the weight class.
Yeah.
A little bit. Or have like a breakfast. That's right. Yeah.
And I always recommend that folks do try and like eat and drink just a little bit, but make sure you actually have the actual weight of the food. For example, like 100 milliliters of water weighs roughly 100 grams, right? So if you are, 0.1 under, probably don't drink 100 milliliters of water because you'll be literally just on the nose and there's no wiggle room.
Yeah.
But maybe you have like, just a little sip of 50 milliliters, something like that.
Yeah.
Or if you're further under, like 0.5 kilos under, maybe have 250 milliliters of water and then half a granola bar, depending on the weight of the granola bar, right?
Yeah.
So you can get a little food in you.
Typically, what I'll do is if I step on the scale and I'm under, and we're like half an hour out or something from weigh-ins, it's tough when you're like at the venue, but if your venue's a hotel, you can go back up to your room and weigh things out or whatever. But I'll measure the difference of what I have, what I'm under with my Pedialyte or like my electrolyte drink, and I'll start drinking that first, just to like give your body a chance to like absorb those electrolytes first, and then after, once you make weight, then you'll make up we'll get into that though, but you'll make your concoction and then you start your rehydration process.
Yeah.
Those two things that we didn't talk about that you should probably never do ever?
What?
Okay. self-induced vomiting.
Yep.
It's a big
Never
one.
do that.
I have seen people do as well to make weight.
And never take laxatives to make weight.
Ooh, I was thinking about another one.
Because you don't know how you respond to laxatives. And if their effect still kicks around, you're putting a lot of maximal load on your body, doing a lot of weird shit to your gut, your stomach, and then you're going to go put all that pressure. And, like, you know how it is in the bottom
that back spotter's going to need a shower, brother.
Yeah, that back spotter's going to need a raincoat.
Yeah.
If you're going to go ahead and do that. So just be nice to everyone and don't use laxatives. Don't self-induce vomiting.
Yeah.
What's the other one you're going to say?
The last one, I've seen this happen at Worlds. People are so close that they buzz their hair.
Yeah, I mean, like,
and I mean, that's like that one will have negligible effects on performance, but like psychologically, that'd be pretty tough. But I don't think it should ever come to that point.
Yeah, I mean, like, it there's some nuance there too, because like you don't know what happened. Like, did they get sick the week of their competition? Like, and then it kind of fucked up the weight cut.
Who knows,
those
man?
Types of things too, but. Yeah,
I've seen people buzz their hair and still not make it.
Yeah,
and so then that's demoralizing.
Yeah, what was the point?
Oh,
yeah.
Because like even if you miss weight at Worlds, you don't compete.
Yeah.
So now you're sitting there in the hallway, buzzed.
Your head's cold. Yeah, ideally it wouldn't come to that point.
No, exactly.
But yeah, that's kind of it for that. The high impact, and then we have like one more. Like I called it the extreme impact one. And then we already talked about it. The active.
That was the active. And I would say active sweating and the self-induced vomiting.
Yeah, that's like the most extreme. I don't think it should ever come to that point because you're going to be pretty much out of food by then if you're at that point.
Yeah.
And so you're going to be pretty much throwing up bile and or just water.
Yeah.
You're throwing up water. And it's not going to be great.
No.
It's not going to feel good. It's also just not a great behavior to engage in.
Definitely not.
In general.
What is that? Bulimia? Yeah, it's bulimia.
That's a type of eating disorder.
That would be not good.
No. Now, in terms of what happens after the weight cut, I think we just jump right over to there.
Yes, I agree.
Unless you wanted to add anything else.
No.
Okay.
No, I'm good with that.
All right. Well, what do you like to do after a weigh-in?
So,
what do you advise lifters to do?
No matter what, like if you could cross all the T's and dot all the I's and you could have the perfect weight cut and make weight, but if your rehydration process is not good, you will flop.
Yes.
Like it'll make or break everything.
Rehydration and the refeed as well. Like when you're getting the food back in.
Yes. So there is a danger. What's the word? There's a
risk.
Nope.
Okay.
Everybody thinks that they have to suck back their electrolytes and like minimal water.
Yes.
Hypernatremia is what I'm getting at. Yeah.
Hypernatremia.
Hypernatremia. And what this is it's a very sharp increase in your sodium and is it sodium or other stuff?
Electrolyte levels. So
sodium and electrolytes.
That could include potassium. Yeah, the other ones. Yeah.
And what happens is if there's so much sodium and electrolytes and not enough like water volume, that it can induce cramping, headaches, fainting spells. And I've seen it happen firsthand in competition where people will pound back their Pedialyte. They'll add in salt tablets. They'll do everything to increase that sodium content. And then, once things start to digest, they start cramping up during their warm-ups.
Yep.
I've seen people faint. Like it's not good. So it's
like you can worsen the symptoms of dehydration.
Yes.
If you don't use a moderate balance of both.
Yes.
Right?
And so one trick that I do, or like what it's recommended, is you do a mixture of 50-50. So you do your electrolyte, sodium content concoction,
like drink replacement,
and then half water to dilute it, and then you drink that.
Yeah,
that's kind of like my go-to solution for that.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
Yeah,
because I'll usually just kind of sit back and forth on Pedialyte, for example.
Yeah,
and water. I won't.
You don't mix the two.
Yeah, I won't mix it. But yeah, usually I'll tell people like roughly, I want you to consume 1.5 times the weight lost in fluids, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, if you lose like, 1 kilogram, you're going to be drinking 1.5 liters, right?
Mhm.
For me, it was a little steeper, and I wound up drinking, I think it was like a couple liters or something like that, or maybe 3 liters.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. When you're really trying to rehydrate over that short window, just because you don't want to go into the competition dehydrated, right?
Yeah.
But again, if you drink too much water and not enough like electrolytes, you wind up with hyponatremia, right? And
Yep.
this can be kind of risky, can be dangerous as well.
Mhm.
This kind of shit can get you hospitalized, right?
Yeah.
And then you go the other direction, you can wind up with hypernatremia where the electrolytes are too high and you don't have enough water in your system,
That's
right?
right.
So yeah, a low and slow moderate approach is a good idea. Just
Yes.
sip on your water and your electrolyte replacement over the course of, the time you have. And then I usually say do that 1.5 times rule, or drink 50% of that, half of it before you start drinking food or eating food. I mean, you could drink food if you're into that. Like,
Yeah.
if you're into smoothies and things like that.
So what do you typically eat post weigh-in?
So for eating post weigh-in, you're gonna want to go for fast digesting carbs, right?
High on the glycemic index.
High on the glycemic
Absolutely.
index, something that's easy on your gut and something that you're familiar with as well.
Big one.
Ideally, introduce something like this in training before meet day.
Yeah.
But yeah, stuff like rice cakes, white bread, honey, bananas, even Gatorade powder itself. While Gatorade powder does have kind of a weak electrolyte content, it has a lot of sugar in it, which actually can be good for competition. But you also get a little bit of electrolyte in there as well. Oftentimes, I will drink my Gatorade powder mixed with pre-workout and have it all diluted down with water.
Crazy.
Once we get closer to warm-ups, I won't do pre-workout and stuff like that too far out.
Yeah.
Because it makes you feel not very good. And your guts are also going through a lot at the same time. Like you're not familiar with this situation and this process.
Mhm.
But yeah, I love doing like white bread and honey, just straight up white bread and honey.
Hell yeah.
Make some of those. Just dummy it, put some back. And then I'll usually snack on a saltier snack like what are they called? Crispers?
Crispers, yeah.
Yeah, I
Those are
love
good.
those. They taste like weight cutting to me now, though,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I can't eat
That's
the
no
salt
bueno.
and vinegar ones.
That's funny.
I can eat the other ones, but yeah, I love doing stuff like that. And then just like candy
Yeah.
as well as a good option.
Just to kind of like munch on throughout the day.
Yeah, and that's a good one just to try and keep your energy levels up throughout
Yeah.
the day as well.
I'll typically go with like a white bread bagel or something. And I like strawberry honey.
Oh yeah.
Or not strawberry honey, strawberry jam.
Oh yeah.
And I'll just spread that on there and that's
Ooh, jam's a good one too.
because
Jam and honey.
That's like pure.
I'm gonna change what I'm doing.
Ooh,
Yep.
I'm a big strawberry jam guy.
Call you yourself an influencer now.
Yeah, that's
You've
crazy.
influenced me.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's usually what I advise for post weigh-in, and then to carry yourself throughout the meet. Keep up on your hydration throughout the day. Like it's easy to let that slip aside.
Yeah.
Just constantly be sipping throughout the day.
The biggest thing you have to prioritize is your fluid intake.
Yes.
Like post weigh-in, immediately you want to start drinking as much as you can tolerate. There's no point in going beyond because you might vomit and lose what you just and took. So you got to prioritize getting in fluids. And once you initially drink the water or drink your stuff, you can then start nibbling on your food. And then, like you said, throughout the day, continue to sip as much as you can.
Yep.
And then hopefully by the time we step on the platform, you're somewhat rehydrated.
Yep. And you know what? Sometimes the weight cut has such an impact on you that you need to consider lowering squat openers too.
Very true.
Or just openers throughout the whole day as well.
Yep.
But yeah, like just keep a close eye on the squat opener. It's never a bad idea to lower it and then take some bigger jumps later, but at least get in the game first. Don't bomb out because you just cut a bunch of weight. Also, like if you did do a chronic weight loss phase mixed in with this acute weight loss phase,
Mm-hmm.
your body might feel a bit different when it comes to lifting. Like your knee sleeves might fit a bit different.
Yes.
Your belt might fit a bit different.
Yes.
The squish around your joints there's not gonna be as much padding. All these things, I think, when you lift at 101, 103% of your maximum, have a larger impact, right? Because your fuck around to find out ratio is a lot less forgiving.
Yeah.
I love saying that.
Yeah. Typically, and this is it's not the same for everybody, but as a general rule, Bench press, when you do this like rapid weight loss strategies, bench press will get hit the most.
Yeah, my bench press
for sure
tanked.
Yeah.
For this past meet.
Yeah, because like bench press, majority it's mass moves mass. The bigger you are, the more you can move. And if you do a rapid weight loss like this, typically it does see the biggest impact on weight. Secondary, I would say, would be squat. And I think that is simply due to like positional issues. Like you said, the belt may not fit the exact same.
I find
you may have to crank it a little bit more tighter. The sleeves.
One of the ways I gauge depth is like kind of when my thighs are contacting my stomach.
Yeah.
And it's different after losing weight, right?
Yeah.
So there's always an argument there to train closer to your weight class.
Yes.
Obviously there can be some drawbacks to that. We're not going to get into them now, but just living in a lower or living closer to your actual competition weight can have some positive benefits that way.
Yeah.
If you're staying around that class.
Yeah.
It can be harder to gain mass that way. So maybe you're doing more of a bulk cut cycle and cutting down closer to and just hovering at maintenance and then doing an acute weight cut as you get 1 to 2 weeks out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of usually what I like to do, is trying to live closer to the class.
I've been saying that for years, and here we are.
Just repeat.
Heavy as fuck.
Anything.
I was gonna say,
fuck.
and then the last one, the deadlift typically does not get that much impacted by it.
Yep.
And most of the times, at least for me, I can get into like a better position.
Yeah, my
on the
deadlift
floor.
was better. I hit an all-time PR at the last meet, even though I did like a really sharp weight cut, very acute. Felt really, really good, right? And
Would you pull 280?
277.5. Yeah.
Yes.
And I found like there's just less squish in my fingers.
Yep.
Like my fingers were leaner.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that allowed me to get a better or more purchase on the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, as well.
Interesting.
So, yeah. But yeah, that last meet, my squat sucked and my bench press was horrible. And the deadlift, I all-time PR'd. So I think like that lines up perfectly with an anecdote that you hear that spouted around a lot by other powerlifting coaches. And I think it holds quite a bit of weight.
There's definitely some validity to that. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously it can vary from person to person quite a bit.
Of course.
If you're starting at like 130 kilos, probably less of an impact overall, right? Because there's just so much mass, right?
Yes.
But yeah. Anything you wanted to add there, man?
No, man, that was good. The main takeaway for post weigh-in is prioritize fluid intake.
I was gonna say too, drinking half the fluids that you've been like allotted, that 1.5 times rule, and then eating a bit, and then going back to sipping fluid. I find it actually helps with the stomach a little bit instead of you slamming 3 liters of fluid on an empty stomach.
I don't think I could slam 3 liters.
Yeah, I don't think I could do it.
I could do barely 1 full liter.
Yeah,
because my stomach was already like shrunk a little bit because like you're low fiber diet, bro.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of food in
you're
there.
Not eating a lot of filling things.
Yeah. So that's definitely a thing to consider.
I also probably wouldn't recommend jacking up your fiber intake after the weigh-in.
No,
either.
Don't worry about that. No,
that's a later thing. Fiber's good for you. It's healthy. Like you need fiber. If any, like the Heart and Stroke Foundation friggin' recommends it. Like don't worry about that for that day though.
Protein intake. What do you do there?
Protein intake. I actually I don't often supplement with protein that day either.
No,
because they're all dairy derivatives.
Yeah,
and I just think dairy in competition day for me, I'm not really lactose intolerant.
Yeah,
it's just sometimes a little bit of dairy on top of that low fiber diet you just been doing.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel very good.
I don't think. Like I've seen people like have like big normal meals, like high protein rice, like beef and stuff. I don't know if you need to prioritize protein as much post weigh-in, because I don't know if protein's gonna affect the performance.
Yeah, on that day.
Other than like your hunger levels, like it'll what's the word? Satiety. Satiety.
Yeah.
It'll curb that a little bit. Maybe,
man, just eat more white bread and honey.
But honest to God, just put
it back.
I think so. Yeah, I wouldn't focus too much on it.
Yeah, I don't usually.
You don't have to do a fucking protein shake post weigh-in.
Yeah.
I don't think that's gonna do you any good.
No, I don't think. It'd help a ton
for the post weigh-in. But
yes,
after that, yes, like training, yes.
Yeah, you're gonna need to get your protein intake back up, everything like that too. Yeah, that's kind of where I land on all those things.
Excellent.
You got anything else to add to all that?
No, I'm pretty good there.
I feel like that was a pretty comprehensive coverage there.
Yeah, we got through that.
We put up a question and answer poll a little while ago.
Let's look at it. This one's from Zach. Why does Danny look like that?
Right on.
That's
Right arm. Any others?
Oh, Don O'Dale.
What do you say?
How do I lose 10 kilos while eating smoked meats and brewskis?
You know what's hilarious is I am smoking ribs right now as we speak, and I need to go wrap them up in about 23 minutes. So
We got time.
we got time.
How to lose 10 kilos while eating smoked meats and brewskis.
Donovan, here's the trick, okay? That's all you eat. All right? You eliminate everything else. I know fiber's important for your heart health and everything like that. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Just beer and smoked meats.
I'd say go Michelob, but they're American and we're kind of in a dispute right now. So
By Canadian folks.
you're gonna have to go with some type of lighter beer that's low carb.
I think there's a couple other brands that are Canadian made that make low-cal beers.
Bro, I can't think of one.
I can't think of one
I
either. I don't drink a ton of beer.
I don't get my Michaels anymore.
My Michaels. Hey, good for you. Hey, it requires sacrifices from us all.
Yeah, that's funny. Oh,
Once the mango Mussolini's out, then we can reconsider our
Oof.
American beer usage.
all right. Yeah, you got that, Don? All right, excellent.
You got that? Right arm.
This one's from Nick Wall. Was it a good idea to go from 7,000 calories to 3,000 instantly? What?
Question is, define instantly. That's so a 4,000 calorie deficit, if let's say, for example, 7,000 calories is your maintenance, I probably wouldn't recommend that personally.
I think you're going to have an upset stomach at 7,000 calories, regardless of what you eat. In general.
Unless you're like the world's strongest man and you're
Yeah.
6'9", 400 pounds.
So I would say that's probably a good idea to go back down to normal food.
Yep.
3,000 is probably good.
If you're eating 7,000 and it's not working, the problem is you, not
Yeah.
your metabolism.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Okay, that's all I got. There's those three.
Right on.
Yeah.
Very useful.
Why do I
question
look
and
like
answer.
that, Zach? I don't know.
Because he's gorgeous.
Because I'm gorgeous. I got shades on in the thing though.
Yeah.
It looks good.
Anything else to add, Danny, on this episode?
I'm pretty happy with that. I feel like we covered a lot.
Yeah.
We are both somewhat knowledgeable.
Somewhat. Yeah.
We align, which is I find surprising in a way.
We both came to our own conclusions. We have slight differences maybe in the approach, but all in all, it kind of winds up being the exact same.
Yeah, exactly.
Both work too,
Yeah.
as well. Well, folks, if you have questions about this topic, feel free to reach out. You can reach out to us at the Aches, Pains, and Gains Instagram account, which is at achespainsandgains.podcast. You can also reach out to us individually. I'm at ThomasJohnston_BCB. He is at DHeinz_BCB. You can also reach out to Bridge City Barbell YXC on Instagram
Hell yeah.
for all your coaching needs, or you can head on over to www.bridgecitybarbell.com for all your coaching needs
Here we go.
as well.
Yep.
Folks, this has been the Aches, Pains, and Gains podcast. Please like, share, subscribe wherever you are, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.
Peace.